Okay, here we go. So let's put some screen share on. And let's put this on. Okay, so I'm really excited to have an opportunity to talk about one of the many aspects of bioresonance. And as you know, today I'm going to talk a little bit about detoxification and how bioresonance can be so incredibly helpful with this. So I'll show you some slides and we'll have some questions at the end. So let's start with this slide, which I've adapted a little. This is one of my favourite quotes from Nikola Tesla that should say, if you want to discover the secrets of the universe, but I'm going to say, if you want to discover the secrets of optimal detoxification, then think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Now, as you know, there's many ways of detoxing the body. You can go and have colonics, you can do juice fasts or water fasts, you can take herbs and psyllium husks and all sorts of different potions and take different foods, different diets. There's many ways. And some of them are quite enjoyable and some are quite challenging, let's say. Sometimes they involve lotions and potions and things that don't taste very nice, or you have to cut out your favorite foods and all sorts of things like that. However, when you use bioresonance, it's not that you sit there and eat junk food and try to detox with bioresonance, but it makes the whole process a whole lot easier, in my personal opinion. So we're going to look at detox with frequency and vibration. So why do we need to detox at all? Well, in this day and age, however much organic food we eat, however squeaky clean we think we are, however careful and conscious we are with the way we live, I think it's actually impossible to escape some levels of toxicity. So, given that we're constantly exposed to toxins in different forms, how can we prevent these from actually harming us as we live the lives that we're leading now? Well, of course, that's what this talk about is. The answer lies to a huge degree with detoxing and our ability to keep our bodies clean and pure and free from the nasties that we're constantly being bombarded with. So some of the things I'm talking about as nasties are, for instance, pesticides that are on the foods we eat unless we're eating organic food, the environmental toxins, many of which we breathe in, they're in the air, chemtrails, etc. And residues from drugs that you may have taken in the past or from vaccinations that sit in the body, toxins that come from cleaning products or from skincare products, shampoos, makeup, face creams, those sorts of things, personal care products. Then we have microorganisms that, again, the body treats as a form of toxin, like mold, like fungi or yeast, like heavy metals, mercury from our fillings, for example, like parasites in different forms, worms, protozoa, like different forms of viruses, and different forms of bacteria. So these are just some of the things that are so easy to pick up. And most of us have got some combination of these, even if we are leading a very clean, healthy, conscious life. And it's not that we're doing anything wrong. It's just that it's almost possible to escape picking up these things that are in the air and surrounding us absolutely everywhere. So let's think about what happens with all of those toxins and microorganisms and things that don't actually belong in the body, but which we're constantly exposed to. So I want to go back in time a bit to the 1940s and 50s to a doctor called Hans Heinrich Reichenweg, who was a doctor who came up with a theory of homotoxicology, which you may well have come across as a name. And it's often said that he was really ahead of his time because he talked about health being a result, if you like, of the amount of toxins that are in the body. And he talked about the external toxins, like some of the ones I've mentioned, that are coming in through the environment, through, especially in this day and age, the radiation that we're subjected to, through different chemical contaminations, pesticides, etc., but also the internal toxins that are created through, for instance, waste products within the body, and maybe a lack of ability to get rid of some of the waste products. And he said all of these toxic factors lead to a state where the body can't clean itself sufficiently. Obviously, we're set up with a liver that is there to process a lot of the toxins and, in theory, keep us clean. But there's so many of them that at some point we're in a state of overload. So if the body isn't sufficiently cleaning itself, then the toxins and the toxins begin to accumulate in our cells and in our organs and around our cells and organs. And we begin to get signs of dis-ease or illness, metabolic disorders, disturbances in our ability to heal, our ability to rehabilitate from different situations. We begin to get imbalance or disorders within different systems of the body, like the immune system, for example. And so he said, let's look at illness through the viewpoint of toxins and how many toxins we're accumulating and our ability to get rid of those toxins. And a few years after talking about homotoxicology, he came up with this, if you like, 6-phase theory. He called it the disease evolution table, which shows the progression of ill health, from health to progressive ill health, right down to nasty diseases, through the accumulation of toxins. So I know this is a little bit small, so you can't necessarily see this so easily, but you can see the 6 columns here. And the first column represents the body's initial responses to toxins that you may have taken on or ingested. And these are responses like vomiting or diarrhea or sweating, or your body doing things to try to get rid of those toxins. We're very well equipped with all sorts of clever ways of getting rid of or excreting toxins that potentially could do us harm. But if we're overloaded with toxins and the body's getting depleted and isn't able to excrete so well, we might, as those toxins build up, move into an inflammatory stage. So the body might start creating inflammations, fevers, for example, to try and give the body a bit of a power boost to again get rid of those microorganisms or toxins. So creating a fever will raise the temperature of the body and hopefully kill the bacteria or the microorganisms that are creating a poison within the body. And then we move on, if that's not successful, we move on to the next phase, where often people don't necessarily have a lot of symptoms, but they might just feel a bit tired or a bit kind of below par. Things aren't working quite as well, but they don't feel super, super ill. But as toxins accumulate and multiply, and again, the body gets weaker and less able to get rid of them, then we can move over this division line into a 4th phase where those toxins, which have started quite superficially here with the outside of the body, begin to sink in a bit deeper. They're progressively traveling towards the cells rather than being a good distance outside of the cells. And we begin to move into slightly more serious conditions that are a little bit more difficult to treat. And these include things like inflammatory disorders and allergies, intolerances. And then we can move into autoimmune illness and eventually into the worst phase, which is where you have cancers and really nasty, quite serious diseases. So Dr. Eckereg, he said, well, let's not ignore our bodies, given that we're constantly accumulating toxins and picking up microorganisms. Let's not wait until we've got some serious symptoms and get labelled as having a particular condition. Let's actually work to stop that from happening by keeping ourselves clean, by detoxing, so that there's no need to end up down in one of these lower phases and stages that are far, far more difficult to treat. So there could be lots of in-depth lectures about this table, but this is just a a little taster. So in his words, the answer is to detox. It's time to detox. Let's keep our bodies nice and clean. So let's begin to look at how that might happen, and again, why it's so important. We've heard a little bit about why it's important, but let's look inside ourselves now to a part of the body you may well not have heard of. At least I hadn't until I started getting involved with bioresonance. And it's a really important part of the body that actually you find all over the body, and it's called the extracellular matrix. Now, if you think of your body a bit like a swimming pool, and all your cells and organs and different bits and pieces like floats floating in a swimming pool, the water between them is what's called the extracellular matrix. And for different parts of the body to communicate with each other and for exchanges to happen between different parts of the body, there has to be a transfer or an interchange between different parts of the body through this space called the extracellular matrix. In practice, the extracellular matrix is full of protein strands and fibrous strands, forming connective tissue that literally holds all our bits and pieces in place. But it's very fluid filled, and it needs to be free of toxins in order, for example, that in this picture, all the nutrients that are carried within our blood from our food and from the oxygen that comes from the air we breathe and through our lungs into the blood needs to be transported into our cells. So here's a representation of some cells here. For our cells to be healthy, they need nutrients, they need oxygen and other bits and pieces. So these need to be able to freely flow from the blood vessels into the cells. And in return, cells produce waste products that need to be excreted from them through the extracellular matrix and back into the great vessels of the body so that they can be excreted and carried away. So in the healthy body, there's this constant interchange and all is well. However, if all those toxins start accumulating in the body and they get too much for the liver to process, they begin to spill over into this space. And all these toxins, which we see here, begin to group together in clusters because the extracellular matrix has an electrical charge to it that, almost like a magnet, aligns the different toxins kind of nose to nose. So we get these blocks called clusters. And these are a bit like, if you think of a big city in rush hour, and you think of all the people driving cars trying to get home in rush hour and the limited number of roads to get out of the city, these little clusters here of toxins look a little bit like the traffic jams you might get in rush hour, people sitting in their cars not able to get anywhere because there's nose-to-nose traffic. And if you've been in that situation, you'll know very well that if someone comes along, let's say an ambulance comes along and it needs to get through quick, it can't because the traffic's not moving, not going anywhere. And it's very frustrating because if you're the person wanting to get through quickly to get to an appointment, you can't. So the toxins begin to build up in our extracellular matrix, forming these traffic jams, creating a congestion that then prevents the interchanges from happening, which means that our cells don't receive the nutrients and the oxygen and the other bits and pieces that they need because this space has become Piccadilly Circus at rush hour. So they literally become starved. And the waste products that our cells are trying to excrete so that the cells can stay healthy are trying to be excreted back into the blood, and they can't get through. There's all that congestion. So the cells are not only starved, but they become poisoned. And this is a really not good situation to be in, and yet it's a situation that so many of us are in unknowingly. So you can see here that under normal conditions, a healthy extracellular matrix will flush out all the cellular waste. But when it becomes congested due to toxic overload, then this natural clearing process fails, and there's usually inflammation in the body at that stage as well. So it's really important that we can clear out that extracellular matrix of toxins. Because if we don't, if those toxins sit in the body, not only are we having cells that are starved, that are becoming poisoned, so they're working below par, but we then begin to experience symptoms. And this will be maybe in that third stage on the disease evolution table. We start feeling fatigued. We might feel a bit irritated. Our skin might show signs of irritation. We might have inflammation appearing in the body. We might feel joint aches and pains. We might have digestive upsets, or digestion might not work very well. And there's endless other possibilities. So, what's interesting about this is that round about 50% of the symptoms of ill health that we could experience can be relieved, can be vanished, if you do a good detoxification process. So, what does that mean, a good detox, a good detoxification and purification program? Well, we need to break down all those clusters in the extracellular matrix. We need to break them down, and we also need to destroy the toxins or the microorganisms that are there so that they can't actively hang out there. We need to activate the lymph, the flow of lymph through the lymphatic system, and decongest it so that it can effectively carry the waste products of the toxins and microorganisms out of the body. Because, of course, when they're destroyed, we don't want those bits and pieces from the destroyed toxins. We don't want them sitting in the body. We want them out. So we want them to be carried through a lymphatic system that's working effectively and optimally. As I said, we want to break down the waste products, flush it out through the lymph. And we also need, for an effective detox, we need to drink lots of water, at least 2 litres of good pure water a day, partly to thin the lymph and to help the lymph to flow, and partly to give a medium with which all the toxic waste products can be carried out. So if you're not drinking enough water but you are detoxing, you're likely to have Herxheimer's effects or headaches or feel a bit rubbish. Water's really important, and I'm sure you all know that. So let's come back to bioresonance, because the lovely thing about bioresonance is we can do all of this really simply with a little device that's no bigger than my hand. I know some of you know this device. It's called the DeVita AP, or the latest model is the DeVita AP Plus. And it's the #1 device, in my opinion, for detoxing and purifying the body. A really handy piece of kit to have. Of course, some people will feel those symptoms of ill health and they'll think, oh, no, I can't be bothered to detox. Let's just get rid of the symptoms. So they'll go to the doctor, and the doctor's likely to treat the symptoms with drugs. But the really sad thing about that, and of course there is a place and a time for drugs, don't get me wrong, but if people just go to take drugs for basic symptoms without doing a detox, of course, they're going to become more toxic because drugs will leave toxic residues in the liver. And so potentially there could be other symptoms that then appear. So the lovely thing about bioresonance is it doesn't give you any side effects. It doesn't leave any residues. It's completely harmless. Anyone can use it, regardless of how old or young you are. And it's working very powerfully to get rid of the specific things you want to get rid of, but it's not going to harm any of your healthy surrounding tissues. So, for instance, it will get rid of pathogenic bacteria, but it won't get rid of your good bacteria. So it's really a fantastic tool to work with. So, what does this particular little device do? Well, it does everything to do with spring cleaning the body, purifying, eliminating, detoxing. And as I said, it's completely easy to use, super effective, and completely harmless. It works with a particular form of frequency, which are called square wave frequencies. And these are powerful frequencies. They're not going to harm your body, but they're powerful enough that they can break down, destroy and break down and eliminate all of those microorganisms and toxins. And they work a bit like the action of a hammer hitting a nail. If you had a nail that was a bit reluctant to go into a piece of wood and you had to keep tock, 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 bang, 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 and you had to keep on knocking like that, that would be a bit like how these frequencies work. You can see here lots of aggressive lines and then a little pause, lots of aggressive lines and a little pause, and they appear to be blocks that look vaguely square-like. They're not actually square, they're not actually square frequencies, but they've been given that name because when you deliver a block of very fast frequency, it appears to look like a square. So if you've got a population of Candida or a population of whatever toxin or microorganism it might be, you can't get rid of it all in one go overnight. You're going to need to weaken it and lessen the amount of it day by day, over a number of days or weeks or even months, depending on whether we're looking at, say, an acute condition like you've picked up a cold, so you've got a cold virus and you're wanting to get rid of that microorganism. So you might get rid of that very quickly in a few days. If it's a chronic condition or a virus that's been in your body for decades, you might be looking at 3 or 4 months or so until it's all completely gone. So this is a device that, depending on whether it's an acute or a chronic situation, you might be using every day, playing the same programs. So you're banging away metaphorically with your hammer each day, lessening the amount of toxins or microorganisms until they're all gone and the hammer has finally banged the nail all the way in. Now, this device is based on the work of a doctor and scientist that many people have heard of, Dr. Royal Raymond Rife. And he's sometimes thought of as the founder of bioresonance, although officially he's not. Bioresonance was being looked into and developed long before the days of Rife. But he made some really important discoveries. He worked with this huge microscope that he developed that showed him microorganisms at very high magnification rates. And he was able to, through a series of experimentations, discover that each microorganism had its own resonant frequency. And he was able to work out that frequency through his experiments and to write down what the frequency was. And you can look online now and find the codes for frequencies of thousands and thousands of microorganisms and different substances. I believe Rife isolated not that many, actually, a kind of limited amount of frequencies for different microorganisms. And he also discovered through his experimentation that if you took the frequency of a microorganism and you recreated that with an external device, for instance, like this AP device I'm talking about, and you played those frequencies at a slightly amplified rate, slightly intensified rate. So that's a bit like turning the volume up on your phone or your radio or something like that. The frequency would match the microorganism, but because it's being played at an intensified rate, it would cause the microorganism to begin to shake and to shake and to shake until it shook so fast that it actually exploded and died. So he found he could target specific microorganisms and kill them, destroy them, without having any detrimental effect on any other tissues, which is pretty amazing. So if you know that you've got a particular parasite or a particular bacterial infection in your body, you can just target that particular bacteria or that particular parasite and nothing else will be affected. So to give you another example of what that means, some of you may have seen at school in a physics lesson an experiment where a glass would be shattered by a high-pitched sound or a powerful singer. Glass has its own resonant frequency, And if someone is to match that resonant frequency with a note, if a note is found that matches the frequency of the glass and somebody sings it, ah, probably if it's you or me, nothing would happen. But if we had an opera singer who obviously has a much, much more powerful, if you like, amplified, intensified quality of voice, and they sang that note that was matching the frequency of the glass, then this would happen. The glass would shatter, which is exactly what happens to the microorganisms. So there's another way of thinking about one frequency matching another frequency, the frequency of a note matching the frequency of the glass, but at an intensified level, it has a destructive effect. And to prove this is a real thing, this is a little video, it's about 1.5 minutes long, showing in real time how the square wave frequencies from the AP device here are affecting some paramycium, some little single cell organelles. We're going to see them magnified, I think it's 30 times under a microscope. So just have a look here and we'll see some little wriggling creatures rather here. So this was some research done in 2003. So these are these little wriggly paramycium, and you can see they're wriggling, but they're beginning to roll a bit under the influence of the frequency from the AP device. Of course, the AP is playing the same frequency as these little wrigglers here. And if you watch carefully, this one down here on the right is beginning to it kind of explode, empty its insides, and this one at the top is as well. And now this one in the middle is doing the same. This one now on the right is giving up the ghost, and this one at the bottom. So you can see there's this gradual one by one destruction. There's one at the top there emptying itself as they gradually explode under the influence of their own frequency. Couple more left there. So this is happening in real time. So you can imagine if you had an overgrowth of a virus or bacteria or some toxins in your body, and you played the AP device with the right frequencies every day some would die off, and after a period of time, there wouldn't be any left. So there's just one left here on this slide under the microscope. And it's beginning to get ready to give up the ghost. So here we go. So the programs in the AP would then break down this waste, these waste toxins, if you like, and flush them out through the lymph. So I think that's pretty impressive. There we go. So the AP can break down many, many, many different substances. There's about 2,500 programs in this device for eliminating different things from the body. So some of the things I mentioned earlier, pesticides, environmental toxins, drug residues. If somebody's had chemotherapy, there'll be lots and lots and lots of chemotherapy drug residues in their liver. And it's really important they're cleared out, because if they stay there, and particularly if the person continues to have chemo, which might be really necessary, obviously, for them, but if those chemo drug residues load up, then you're prone to or susceptible to things like sepsis and other infections. So you can do a lot of good cleaning out the liver, cleaning out the drug residues and the toxins from cleaning products and personal care products. And again, microorganisms like the mold and the fungi. If you've lived in a house that's damp or moldy, you may have breathed in mold or fungi spores. Bacteria, constantly picking up bacteria, viruses, different forms of parasites, of course, heavy metals as well. If you eat a lot of big fish, if you've got mercury fillings, these could be leaving mercury in your body. So it's fantastic to know that we have a way to get rid of these things with the AP device. And the way we know that this works is because the company Deta Elis that manufacture this device is a company that's been running for over 30 years now globally, and they've done over 173 three-stage clinical trials with hundreds and hundreds of patients. And they came up with results like these. These are just three of the readings that with the AP, they had a successful eradication rate of parasites that was 96%. So that's pretty amazing, I would say. With Helicobacter pylori, 92% eradication rate. That's something I had. I didn't know I had it, but I had an infection of Helicobacter pylori and I got rid of it completely with the AP. Different types of hepatitis, 90% eradication rate. So imagine if you could treat yourself with a little device, having this in your pocket every day and going about your normal everyday life rather than having to do all sorts of other complicated things. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Here's just a couple of slides again showing some before and afters, not complete afters because these slides are just showing the effect after using the AP for a couple of treatments, 20-minute treatments, so very short time. But already we can see quite a difference on this slide. This is looking at listeria. Before, lots and lots of cells on the slide, and after a couple of 20-minute treatments, you can see the cells is much lower. So if those treatments continued, at some point the slide would be completely clear. Same is true here with Staphylococcus. Before, you can see a large number of cells. After, they're much reduced. And again, if the AP continued to be used, those would clear. And then again with E. coli here. So big difference. This is a slide showing that the cells have actually been destroyed and they now need to be kind of flushed out. So there's a lot of research showing how effective this device is, and there's a lot of more research that I'm not going to go into now. So using the AP device, a lot of people don't know where to start. They might know that they need to clean up their inner workings, but they might not know which programs to use because, as I said, there's so many possible programs that you could use. And so if you were to come and have a diagnostic bioresonance scan, and I offer these in Forest Row every 3 months with a bioresonant expert who comes over to do the scans, we could find out exactly which toxins and which microorganisms are present in your body. And then we could use the specific programs to target those and get rid of them all. But for the majority of people who buy these devices, they're not in a position to have a scan. There might not be anyone giving those scans anywhere nearby. So Deta Elis, the company, have made lots of basic protocols for detoxing and for healing different conditions and different issues with body systems. And their suggestion for people who are starting with the AP device is to do some specific yet general detoxes over a period of 3 or 4 months. And this is a schedule that you can download from my website. This is just a part of it here, or I can send you on email. On the AP device, you move through a series of programs that are called automatic programs, and automatic programs combine smaller programs with them. And you will work with each of these automatic programs for a number of weeks or for a month or so. So this is a program that will help eliminate the basic viruses that might be affecting you. Now, that doesn't mean kind of deep-seated specific viruses like Epstein-Barr. We would need specific programs for Epstein-Barr. But a lot of the general viruses that we're prone to picking up on a daily basis will be eradicated. And the toxins that they release as well will be eradicated. Then we have a program for eliminating some of the basic bacterial issues that people pick up in different parts of the body, in the respiratory tract, in the digestive tract, in the urogenital tract. We have programs for yeast and mold and fungi. Again, generally eradicating and eliminating these from the system. We have a big cleansing program that really gets the lymphatic system working well, gets the lymph flowing and gets it to the right viscosity so that we can clean up the mess as effectively as possible. And we have a big bumper, big long parasite program, no parasites automatic, that addresses parasites in different parts of the body. So this is a really good starting place. Obviously, if you have a particular issue, we can advise on specific programs that you might need. But as a general starting place, this is a fantastic beginning 4-month detox, and then we can go into more specifics afterwards. And this will begin to clean up your body, clean up the extracellular matrix, make that nice and clean so that more oxygen, more nutrients can move through. And one of the things I didn't mention about that, which is quite interesting, is that often when people are not feeling very well, they'll take vitamin supplements. And there's endless people who will say, you must take vitamin C, you must take zinc, you must take blah, 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 blah. And all of that's great. However, if your extracellular matrix is bunged up with all those clusters, with the metaphorical traffic jam, then you can take the vitamins and they'll sit in your blood, but they're not going to be able to get through to your cells. So you're wasting a lot of money. And the vitamin and the nutrients, as they try to get through, will just become another toxin in the extracellular matrix. They'll kind of ferment and become more gunk. So in order to really benefit from vitamins, we do need to do a detox to clean up the extracellular matrix. And then if we still need those vitamins, they will make it through to our cells. One of the lovely things, of course, is that a lot of us have enough nutrients, we have enough vitamins and minerals from our food that go into the blood, especially if you're eating organic food. But if they can't get from the blood to the cells, obviously you're not making use of them. But when you clean up the extracellular matrix, all of those nutrients that you are getting from your food will be able to get through. So you might not need to buy supplements. Of course, there's situations where you want an extra boost, and of course you can do that, but your body will then make much better use of them. So I've had hundreds and hundreds of clients working with the AP, and a lot of people will choose to email in and say thank you. You know, this is some of the things I've noticed. So just put a few testimonies here. The testimony from someone who had Helicobacter pylori in their stomach and reflux, and after using the AP, the reflux stopped and the mucus, the postnasal drip stopped. Had someone here who had lots of really noticeable results. They slept much better once they got rid of their toxins. The varicose veins really interestingly calmed down and weren't so prominent and weren't so painful. Fungal toenail infection started going, and a prostatitis issue hugely cleared up. So that was fantastic. Um, Lots of people have success with colds and flus and COVIDs through playing the programs for colds and flu and COVIDs. What was this one? So someone with Lyme disease found that the AP really helped them heal from Lyme and mold issues and gave them an energy boost. More about COVID, people with COVID recovering, catarrhal coughs disappearing. And I love this. For OAPs, we look and feel younger than our years. Someone else wrote in about cystitis that they got rid of with the AP. So these are just some of the kind of everyday things that people will report when they're using the AP on a regular basis. So when we're detoxing, we can do a huge amount with the AP. And it might be that's totally enough to use the AP and drink enough water. But for some people, they still want a bit more help, or they want the process to be easier still, or quicker, or more powerful, or deeper, or they might be really very ill, so they just need a lot more help. So Deta Elis have developed some complementary synergistic products that aren't based on bioresonance, but they've developed them to help the bioresonance healing process. So I'm just going to add these in. The first is one of their smart cell nutrition products. So Deta Elis developed 6 basically tonics based on fruits and roots and herbs. And they called them smart cell nutrition because they're 100% organic and they're easily absorbable straight into the cells. They don't have to go through a difficult conversion process. So they're very easy for elderly people to take and for people who don't like swallowing capsules because it's in liquid form. And they developed one called the Detox Delixir. Delixir is the name of their 6 tonics. They developed the detox one to help accelerate the process of removing toxins, boosting the immune system, and reducing inflammation. Because, of course, if you've got a toxin build up in your body, as we saw earlier in some of those slides, your body's prone to inflammation, your immune system's likely to be depleted, digestion's likely to weaken. So the Detox Delixir will just support and help and speed up the detox process generally. And it works at a cellular level. It's supporting detoxification, but in doing so, also helping restore health. And it's providing the nutrients that you need in this easily absorbable means to strengthen, to revitalize, to cleanse, to remove the toxins. And this one is kiwi flavored, contains things like aloe vera juice and noni juice and goji berry and ginger and things that are well known for helping with detox. And each bottle will last just over a month, about 33 days. It comes with a little cap on top that measures 15 mils, and you just drink that each day, or you can put it into water or juice or smoothies or pour it on your muesli, put it in your yogurt. I just like kind of knocking it back because I think it tastes really nice. And it's, as I say, very easy to absorb. So this is one of the products that if you really want to do a good detox, you might consider working with as well. Okay, you can work with it on its own without the bioresonance. It will also help general detox, but it gives a really fantastic extra boost if you're working with the AP device as well. And the other product that can really help is this product called the D-Aqua bottle, the 3-in-1 D-Aqua bottle. I've got one here. You can see how big it is. That's my hand. It's not so big. It holds 450 milliliters of water, and it has the ability to ozonate water to help disinfect, to help kill external microorganisms, so to clean your kitchen or to soak your fungal toenails or to gargle or use as a mouthwash, that sort of thing. But it also hydrogenates water. It enables you to drink 2 different strengths of hydrogen-rich water or to nebulize pure molecular hydrogen. And both of these really, really, really help support and increase the process of detoxification. As it happens, hydrogen water is also fantastic for tons of things. If you look online, you can find a research project for almost anything connected to hydrogen water. But within those, there's lots of references to the effects hydrogen has in removing toxins, in detoxing the body, enhancing immunity as a result, and promoting gut health, because of course, as you detox the gut, your gut health will increase. And as you detox, also skin health will increase. So there's a lot of studies. It's well proven that this is the case, but let's just look a little bit at why. One of the main reasons that hydrogen supports detoxification is 2 things. One is that it supports the organs of detoxification, so namely the liver and the kidneys. And it does that both by normalizing some of the enzymes in the liver, but generally by neutralizing the free radicals that we're constantly taking into the body unknowingly. Free radicals create oxidative stress, and oxidative stress leads to degeneration of our cells and weakened functioning. So if we can begin to remove the free radicals so we don't have the degenerative processes happening, then our organs of detoxification can work better, and the gut can work better. Molecular hydrogen also hugely supports the gut's natural ability to detox and also speeds up healing processes within the body. So you may know a lot about free radicals. Some people know about the word, but they don't actually know so much about what that means. So just in a really basic way, if we look here, here's an atom, and circling around it, we have pairs of electrons. But in the case of a free radical, the electrons that in a healthy atom here, you can see they're all arranged in pairs. In a free radical, the atom is circled by electrons that don't all have a pair. So they have an unpaired electron. And for the free radical to survive, it needs to find another electron. So it goes looking, it goes and finds healthy cells, and it tries to steal one of those electrons to bind to it so it can stay strong. But every time a free radical grabs an electron from a healthy cell, the healthy cell goes, "Ugh," and begins to weaken and to be under the effects of oxidative stress. And I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. So hydrogen is a really powerful antioxidant. And antioxidants are very, very lovely things to have because they have spare electrons. And so if there's a free radical about to pinch an electron from a healthy cell, but we've got some antioxidants, we've just had a glass of hydrogen-rich water, the antioxidant will give one of its extra electrons to the free radical to form a pair, so the free radical won't have to damage a healthy cell. So it's quite clever. So the more hydrogen-rich water we can drink, or the more hydrogen gas we can nebulize, the more we neutralize our free radicals, and they can't do us any harm. They can't damage our healthy cells. And that means that the signs of aging, cellular degeneration, slows down. It's kind of halted. And cellular regeneration speeds up. So it's really fantastic. I've had many people drinking hydrogen water and saying, "Oh, I look so much younger." And in fact, I found when I started drinking hydrogen water, my hair that was beginning to go grey kind of stopped going grey and went back to being browner rather than greyer. So that was a rather nice thing that happened to me. In terms of the gut as well, hydrogen will support the digestive system to detoxify. It will reduce inflammation, neutralize cellular waste, and promote healthier gut biome. So again, that's super important. So here's just some pictures to give you an image of what oxidative stress does. Here's a healthy cell. But if those free radicals come along and you're not drinking hydrogen water, those free radicals are going to pinch all the electrons they need from our cells, and our cells are going to begin to degenerate with what's called oxidative stress. They begin to crumble and you see signs of aging. An example of this actually is if you think of somebody who chain smokes, smoking leads to lots and lots of oxidative stress. So people often look a lot older than they actually are if they're constantly smoking cigarettes. But you also see this with an apple. So if you imagine the healthy cell is like a beautiful fresh apple here, and then the cell is attacked by free radicals, you begin to get signs of aging, like in this apple. It begins to go brown a bit. And if that continues, the oxidative stress causes, as you know, if you cut an apple in half, it causes the apple to go brown, and it will gradually cause it to shrivel up as well and dehydrate. So this is what's going on in our cells, inside ourselves, unless we're having enough antioxidants. And drinking hydrogen water is one of the easiest ways to top up on antioxidants and keep our cells healthy, and to therefore keep our organs of detoxification, whether it's the liver, the kidneys, the gut, also the skin, to keep them healthy and working optimally. The other thing that's really fantastic about hydrogen is its molecular size, because most antioxidants, and there's a few here, have quite large molecules, so they can't necessarily penetrate into our cells so easily. But hydrogen is a very powerful antioxidant, but it's the smallest, has the smallest molecular size that exists. So in relation to, say, coenzyme Q10, it's this big. In relation to vitamin C, it's this big or this small. So it can penetrate cells and go straight to the mitochondria. It can go through the blood-brain barrier and feed our neurological tissue. It's really it's really fantastic because it can get to places so easily and so effectively. So why not support your detox process, not just by using the AP and maybe using the Detox Delixir, but also drinking hydrogen-rich water. I said earlier it's really important to drink at least 2 litres of water when you're detoxing to thin the lymph and flush out the nasties. If you add hydrogen, you're going to just have a much more powerful detox. So this is a very simple way to do that. And I couldn't be without my Diaqua. It works through a process of electrolysis, and there are some very, very specialized electrolysis plates that are made from an expert company in Japan. They have the correct certificates and stamps for being able to make very pure hydrogen and ozone. And the device is made with high quality materials. There are a lot of hydrogen bottles available on the market. You can Google them and find incredibly cheap ones that, in my experience, I've seen break very easily and give up the ghost very easily. I know that because when I exhibit at shows, people quite often come up to me with a bottle they've bought somewhere online and go, "Oh, what can I do? It broke after 3 months," or this or that or t'other happened. So this bottle has all the right specifications to work well and to work for a long time. It has an operating life of 5,000 hours, and given that it only takes 5 minutes to make hydrogen water, that's an awful lot of hours. So yes, I've mentioned you can make hydrogen water in 5 minutes. You can also hydrogenate water for 10 minutes. So if you want an extra boost, if you need extra help with detoxing, or you feel you're getting a bit ill and you need more detoxing oomph to get the microorganisms out of your body, you can hydrogenate it for 10 minutes. And it's also portable, so you can take it away on holiday, you can take it if you're out and about, you can um, you can actually just take the base with you rather than the whole bottle, and you can attach to this base a bottle of mineral water and hydrogenate the whole bottle in one go. As I say, it's a 3-in-1 bottle, 2 different strengths of hydrogen. You can make ozone for disinfecting and cleaning. You can use some of the attachments you see here to nebulize hydrogen to detox your brain and your respiratory mucus tracts. And it acts as a portable bottle. And if you have an AP device or any of the other bioresonance devices, you can also program the water and restructure it. So you could, for instance, play an immune boosting program or an anti-cold program or an anti-parasite program, and you could hold it against the bottle with the bottle full of water, of course, and you could program the water and then just put the hydrogen button on for the last 5 minutes. And then as you drink that water, you'd also be taking in the frequencies of those programs as well, which is again giving you an extra boost. Now, because these products complement each other and work so synergistically and powerfully together, there is a package whereby you get a 10% discount on these 3 products together. So if this is something of interest, do look up the detox package, which there is a link to here. It's on my website, and I'm very happy to talk with people more if they do want to look into working with any or all of these products. So there we go. This is a little bit about detoxing. There's lots more that could be said, but hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea, at least about how important it is to detox. So let me take the screen share off. There we go. So thank you very much for listening.